Welcome back. You're watching The American Workplace Bully 5-1. This chapter will continue the series, but in all honesty, isn't necessary to watch as it covers yours truly and doesn't provide any previously unreleased audio evidence from Fox 7 Austin. The reason for this chapter is to establish my qualifications to hold the position. Being that my character was maligned by management, it is necessary to prove exactly how qualified I am. I will also continue the series with 5-2, where we'll go over the political, legal, and corporate barriers that have enabled the workplace bully to not only exist, but to also succeed within their business models. 5-2 is definitely must-see for anyone who has been bullied in the workplace or wants to be proactive in the cause of ending workplace bullying. Alright, so let's get to it with a brief personal history about myself. I'm your basic Gen Xer who grew up watching some of the most defining moments in film, television, and music in the 70s and 80s. Gen Xers grew up in an era of iconic pop culture and technological shifts in mainstream society. There was nothing like it before, and nothing like it ever since. Everything was fresh and new for anyone growing up during those years. The first video game generation, the first HBO generation, the first music video generation, along with Rubik's Cubes, compact discs, and personal computers. What captured my imagination the most were George Lucas and Steven Spielberg films, and like most top Hollywood Gen X filmmakers, have a similar tale of why they wanted to work in film. This was my dream, but as with most things in life, dreams seldom come true. So I got the next best thing, hired as a production assistant at a local TV station. It wasn't much, but I grew by leaps and bounds from what I've learned through mentors and experience. I also had an advantage of being well versed in computers, which at the time during the 90s was a positive thing as television was in the period of transition. So in a matter of a few years' time, after learning everything about the department, I was given the opportunity to have the honor of being the station's creative services director. I did good for a few years, then the station was sold and the new management wanted to change all across the board. So I was back to square one, but it was a blessing in disguise as I was given the opportunity to realize my full potential. So in a span of 1 year, I leaped from market number 100 in El Paso to Seattle, which at the time was ranked number 12. It's a huge leap for anyone with a few years' experience under his or her belt, and very significant as it testifies to my creative qualifications. Fast forward another year, I found myself working at the network level with American Forces Network, top level positions for the profession paying top dollar. It was going really good for me, as it was for a lot of people in the marketing profession during that time. Jobs were extremely abundant in the mid-2000s. However, all good things must come to an end, and it did, in the form of the Great Recession, which absolutely destroyed the marketing industry, and it has never been the same since. I lost my job 2 weeks after closing on my house with a very California-sized mortgage. I couldn't find anything within the professional ranks and held out as long as I could for 14 months. By that time, I was resigned to the fact that I could no longer sustain a house payment and would have to look outside to the lower markets for work. The problem is, once you leave, it's very hard to get back into the professional ranks. But I had to find ways to survive, and the lower market was my only option at the time. While I was slowly getting back into the game over the next few years, I finally received an opportunity to work again in the top 50 market with Fox 7 Austin. In hindsight, obviously it was a big mistake. But during the interview, both Kathy and Lorena put on their happy faces and made it sound like it was the best place in the world to work at. Interestingly enough, Lorena said at one point, "We treat people like family." I was basically conned. I fell for their pitch, hook, line, and sinker, and though Kathy would later diminish the significance of my demo reel, she offered more on the salary when I hesitated in accepting the job. I would say Kathy's downplaying of my qualifications is a bit contradictory, as the hire was based on my demo reel and professional experience. Alright, I'll show you a sample from my demo reel and do some analysis. This can also serve as marketing 101 for any aspiring marketers out there. The following promo is from a job before Fox 7 Austin.
You know what you want to be when you grow up?
Superman.
There is no friendship, no love like that of the parent for the child.
There's no words that can express it.
For these children, there is no greater gift than a loving home and family.
It's just like people that marry into other families. Your family just gets extended.
Watch miracles happen on Gift of Love every Wednesday on KLTV 7 News at 10. Caring, committed, proud.
So let's break it down. Being that it was a smaller market, the station didn't have the resources for a full-scale production, so you had to improvise most of the time. And this is where you show your true skills as a professional, by being able to make a spot look interesting without the resources to work with. The Gift of Love series basically highlighted an at-risk child every week, hoping a caring family would adopt. So given the content and the few clips I had to work with, I decided with the theme of a journey. After spending time listening to the music library for the right piece, and you always start with the audio first, the visuals started to form in my mind, starting off with an innocent answer only a young child could give. But I also had to communicate what the boy's story was, which is why you see the aesthetically correct interpretation of a young boy broken apart into different panels, slowly being taken away from the viewer to suggest time is running out for this boy. This affects the viewer in that it catches your attention and holds you for a few seconds more. And it's very important that the spot does this because most people channel surf or watch from their DVR. If you're able to hold a person's attention until the next section of the spot, I can tell you right now you'll go very far as a marketer. Alright, the spot was off to a good start. Now you have to give the substance and reinforce the message. And this came down to knowing your audience. The community is very church-based, so I did a web search for notable quotes from religious leaders in the past, and it had to be from the past. People tend to embrace quotes from people who are long dead, and the reason for that is because no one can question its wisdom when there is no one around to answer. The quote basically becomes sanctified over time. And reinforcing it with a powerful voiceover helps drive in the message of what you can expect from the actual segment when it finally airs. Very on target. So you have your reasoning, the logic of why this promotion is important. Now comes the addition of the emotional elements. By showing the children who would benefit from acts of a caring heart and underlining it with a great soundbite has the effect of selling to the viewer why it's can't miss TV. By that point you have done your job in selling, and all that is left is to close out with an inspirational message and information of where and when. Alright, I broke down the spot and showed you how multi-layered it was, even though it had very limited resources. A very complete spot, not bad for a lower market. But there's also one more nuance I added to the spot to reinforce the theme. Do any of you remember seeing the heart in the spot? Don't feel bad if you didn't notice because it was never meant to be noticed. And there it is. A simple piece of video enhanced to express love not only on a conscious level, but also the subconscious level, with the heart shape being a commonly accepted pattern and only positives attached to its connotation. And this is where artistry comes into play. As a professional, it's not enough to have a solid message and an aesthetically pleasing look. It is also about workman's pride. When you see, or actually don't see, the extra detailing you're not meant to notice, but can feel its presence, the marketer has accomplished professionally finished work. The best producers are those who make themselves invisible in the spot. Success in marketing is not about 100% of the general audience. It is about holding the attention of your targeted niche viewer 100%. Having multiple layers formed in an aesthetically pleasing design is very rare in lower markets, and I dare say in top markets as well. So with just one spot, I've shown you what kind of professional I am. Despite how much management would like to malign my character, they cannot diminish my achievements nor work. I've worked hard all of my life to earn the position I was hired for. I have never once had to exaggerate on my resume, and believe me, many candidates do tend to exaggerate on their resumes. The irony is, I provided Fox 7 Austin with professionally quality work and lived from check to check. I was fired by people who are making six figures or something close to that, and they're not sophisticated enough to know what they had. Nor could they find a legitimate reason to terminate. It really boggles the mind how our society is structured. Alright, that's it for this very brief chapter. Though it wasn't necessary for you to watch, I thank you for your perseverance. Please join me again for Chapter 5-2 of the American Workplace Bully, where we'll go over the players involved, how you can deal with a workplace bully, and what you can do to help end workplace bullying once and for all. Thank you for watching.